All right, you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Lightforge. This is Adbukta.
This is Merps. Hope you guys are good. Strap yourselves in. We actually have a ton to talk about this week, unlike in previous weeks.
Oh my god, so much stuff. So we're going to do it in 3 steps because everything got updated. We're going to start with the new expansion, then talk about Battlegrounds because they added stuff to it, and then talk about the arena because they touched the arena. Like, not they didn't announce stuff, they didn't do anything, but arena's not the same as it was before. And we're not going to be in the same meta for the next month, so that'll be interesting. So let's kick it off with the new expansion. The new expansion is called
Scholomance Academy. All right, we're going to Hogwarts, but not Hogwarts because there's like copyright violations and everything. But it's basically just Hearthstone Hogwarts, where you're going to a magical school. Yeah, this isn't reading life or death here. This is more kind of like One Night in Karazhan, where it's a huge party, and here you're just going back to school.
Except this is an
That's
even bigger party because it's a full expansion, and it's this the second full expansion that has Demon Hunter in it. And Demon Hunter get extra cards in this year's expansions compared to other classes, so it's like a supersized expansion.
Yep, that's how it is. So, we basically knew that an expansion news / announcement was coming for a while now. This is actually a fairly bit late, but earlier on this week they dropped the trailer, and they also dropped some new cards in order to, like they always do, show you what this new expansion is about thematically and what new stuff they are introducing. So, like we always do, when this happens, we're not going to break down every single new card because we do that at the end when we do the card review. But we do want to talk about what they are introducing. What are the themes? What are the keywords? Yeah.
But they're introducing bullshit. They're introducing a lot of bullshit.
Some of it is bullshit. Some of it is bullshit.
Well, okay. Well, the ones they showed us are bullshit. So maybe the rest of them are good. But this is no arena player is going to like this expansion. I can promise you that just from the very small number of cards that we've seen already. Because they include the following 2 cards. We're not going to go over every card, but I think these are important enough that we should go over because they're common neutrals. And when they're common neutrals, they're going to be in every single deck, and they're going to be seen a lot because right now offering odds, our commons are about twice as frequently seen as rares, which are like 4 times as seen as epics and something like that. So this is going to set the tone. They've only released information on 2 common neutrals, but it's happening, and both of these are you'll see. I'm going to start off with the first one, which is the Onyx Mage Scribe. The Onyx Mage Scribe is a 6 mana 4/9, which is basically a 6 mana 6/7. So it's on curve. It's like Boulderfist Ogre on curve. It's also a dragon. Keep in mind, they've also announced the next rotation, just so you can think about how this expansion is going to affect things. The next expansion is still standard. So they're just going to add this set into the thing with presumably an offer.
How long have after this is over, assuming that they don't change it during this expansion, how will we have played with Descent of Dragons for?
Well, since December, and if it stays in standard, we're going to have Descent of Dragons until next April for 16 months. Like,
great.
How standard has this Descent of Dragons entirety. Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. Yay. So yeah. But we'll talk about that afterwards. I want to talk about Onyx Mage Scribe first. So 6 mana 4/9 dragon common with the ability Spell Burst. Add 2 random spells from your class to your hand. So what Spell Burst is, and Spell Burst is the new mechanic they're adding in. It's like, from a game design perspective, it shouldn't be bullshit in the arena because it will be like insanely bullshit then in constructed. So it's going to be insanely bullshitty in constructed because it's already bullshit in arena. So what Spell Burst means is it'll happen once in the lifetime of the card. You can only trigger this once. And it triggers upon you playing a spell. any spell. So think of it as like dormant triggered upon a spell that you play.
It's not dormant at all. How is this like dormant?
Well, as in, it just like it stays there. It's like Megatheridian, right? You have a condition before it triggers, and it'll only trigger once.
Yeah, but dormant is guaranteed, and within a certain there's
Dormant's
no
not guaranteed. Megatheridian isn't guaranteed. There's nothing about dormant that's guaranteed. Dormant for 2 turns is guaranteed.
Why are we using Magtheridon as the standard for dormant?
Not the standard, just how the concept works. Like mechanically, it delays it until it gets triggered, right? We just changed the trigger. This is now just dormant until you play a spell. That's literally all it is. Like you could what is Spellburst? It's dormant until you play a spell. That's what Spellburst is. The ability is dormant until you play a spell, or the thing dies, right? Because then the body's the board. So yeah. And the Spellburst ability on Onyx Mega Scribe, keep in mind this is a common neutral dragon that is a Boulderfist Ogre type stats for 6 mana. So it's already like probably 100, 105, probably like 100 rated in the tier list. And then it has this Spellburst ability that says add 2 random spells from your class into your hand. So that's 2 random cards, and spells no less, so not, it's even better than just random cards. Just like kind of free. As long as you can play it with another spell or it survives a turn and you play a spell the next turn. It also gives you more spells that you can use to trigger other Spellburst bullshit.
Yep. So that's one of the themes. You're going to see this keyword used on a lot of the minions that are printed out. And we can talk about the second theme, which, if we're following this Harry Potter-esque kind of thing.
Oh, let's not go there yet. I want to stick with this theme because the other common neutral card also has the same theme. So these are the only 2 anchors in the arena that we know right now, right? So one is this bullshitty 6 mana 6-drop that is on curve and then has card draw advantage. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be a 200 rated card or anything like that, but this will be a really, really good card. Like you're going to pick it almost every time you see it when it's up against other neutral cards. Like Twin Tyrant style, right? Maybe even not as good as Twin Tyrant, but nearing it. The other card, the other common neutral card that they showed, keep in mind, they only showed 2 of these, and both of these are bullshit. So this is the other one. It's Wretched Tudor. It's a 4 mana 2/5, so it's not on curve. It has Spellburst, deal 2 damage to all other minions. So, like a Volcanic Potion that doesn't affect it itself, which is really good. This card is not as good as the other card by a long shot, because once you play it, you can't play a spell if you have stuff on your board and they don't have stuff on their board, right? Like it actually limits you as well. You could play it on the same turn as a spell, but that's later on in the game and it only deals 2 damage. So it's actually a very interesting design card. But between the Onyx Mage Scribe and the Wretched Tudor, you already have 2 Spellburst cards that are huge swings in different ways. One is a 6/7 that gives you 2 more cards. Like, that's a crazy amount of card advantage for an on-curve card. And the other one is a high-tempo board clear that, double-sided board clears especially are some of the biggest swings in the game until the craziness of last year, of the year the dragon happened. So it seems like the theme with this Spellburst thing is that Spellbursts are going to be very high swing. Now, I said before that I don't really see how this could work in Constructed because I haven't seen Constructed in a while. I'm guessing it's just like beyond bullshit these days, or else you can't print cards like these, because in Constructed you can actually put spells in your deck. In Arena, I don't know, you average like 8 spells in your deck, maybe 6 spells these days. Like, who knows, right? You may not be, and you may not want to play it at the same time. You may not be able to hold it. Like, it's a little iffy, right? So there's going to be some limits to its applicability in the arena and how good it gets. But even still, the swings when it does trigger are so huge. Keep in mind, this isn't like you have to play any specific card or anything. It's any spell.
Yep. Pretty easy.
No.
Even in Arena. Okay. Cool. So that was a good breakdown of the two neutral cards, and we always want to talk about neutral cards first because of their impact on the meta. And they released a lot of other cards as well, and they introduced kind of the next theme, which is dual class cards. So you have always known that classes have their own cards, which we know is a lie because priests are every single class, rogues are every single class, but they are actually mixing the pools up, and we have cards that are now actual dual class cards. It's like the Halloween event, except forever now. One good example of this is Wand Thief. This is just a very simple card. This is probably the easiest example of it. Wand Thief is a mage and rogue hybrid card, so you can play it in both. It's a 1 mana 1/2 common, and it says combo discover a mage spell. Small drop, easy to combo, and you get a mage spell from it. Mage spells they have some duds, but if you can discover one, lots of times it can be pretty good. And once again, this is just another, hey, discover a spell, and then you use your spells to fuel your spell burst stuff, and the shenanigans just ensue.
Yeah, and it's not like super powerful. There's that warrior card that's like a 1 mana 1/2 that gives you a pirate, right? That doesn't you don't need a combo for it even. And yeah, a random pirate is nowhere as good as discovering a mage spell, but this can't be even played on turn 1.
Yeah.
So I mean, it can be, but you probably don't want to. So
you definitely don't.
Yeah. So it's and there's that rogue cat already. That's a 1 mana 1/2, I think, that gives you a reborn.
Yeah, Pharaoh Cat.
And it discovers a reborn, right? Or does it give you... No, it gives you a random.
No, it just gives you one.
Gives you a random one. Okay, so it's like the pirate thing. So here, because it's combo, it lets you discover one. It's probably a fair trade-off. And it's going to be a good card, but not broken or anything like that. So yeah, we saw tri-class cards before. Now we have dual-class cards. I'm not particularly excited by these. Thematically, they're nice, but practically speaking, it's just going to make more classes feel more the same.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not going to... Okay, so I want to point to one other card that kind of shows you the kind of power creep that's happening with this expansion. And that is Nature Studies. It's a druid card. It is 1 mana, and it says discover a spell. That should be the end of it. 1 mana discover a spell is a totally normal card that Blizzard would print for a class. But instead, now, it also says your next one costs 1 less. So you also bank a mana.
Yeah.
So it's effectively like almost a 0 mana discover a spell kind of card. There's nothing super wrong with it in terms of power level wise, but it's just something Blizzard hadn't done before. Blizzard usually just lets you discover something with 1 mana. So it fits everything else. We're not going to go over every card, but some of these are pretty ridiculous.
Well, yeah, some of them are powerful, but not like, they don't introduce anything new that we haven't seen before. They're just powerful. They're just very, very powerful.
Some of them are like super powerful.
Some of them are super powerful, yes. So yeah, that's Scholomance Academy. We'll obviously see more cards being revealed. This is reveal season now. But we should expect them to be within this theme. We have dual class cards and we have spell burst.
And everything's going to be super powerful. So don't freak out over every card that comes out. Because your baseline neutral common card is Onyx Mage Scribe. Which means your baseline is the new baseline, which we shouldn't be surprised at because the new baseline is stuff like Twin Tyrant for neutrals. And the class cards are just going to be even better. Hopefully they don't break any new barriers, like Gnarg is what was kind of an issue in the last expansion. And we saw how that's very negatively affecting things, even in the Twin Tyrant meta. So hopefully they don't go far beyond that. Like, that's the problem with power creep, right? If you want to make relevant cards, they're always going to keep creeping up in power. And if you keep creeping up in power, bad things are going to happen. So hopefully they keep it in check in their new power, settings. And one of the things, let's talk now about how we're staying in standard for the next expansion. Wild rotations looks to be dead. There was one that was supposed to happen like, a month and a half ago, and it didn't happen, and we're all like, oh, what's happening? And now the next expansion is coming up, and they're not doing wild rotation, so it just seems like we're in standard. It's probably driven by the fact that Demon Hunter is in, so they're a little worried about rotating certain sets out, but that doesn't explain why they don't rotate Fear of the Dragon out. I think it's just kind of a new policy. And I know a lot of people are not happy about it. I am probably less unhappy about it than most people, because Year of the Dragon is super powerful. And if you saw what happened last year, whenever you mix and match Year of the Dragon with other sets, Year of the Dragon dominates other sets. And it looks like this year is the same. We're just continuing this new power level. Like, with Year of the Dragon, Hearthstone basically kicked off a new thing. And it doesn't look like they're going back. The year before Year of the Dragon was actually a step back in power level, in like fundamental power level, arena style, compared to like Ungoro year. So we were all like, I was super happy about that year. I was very excited about Blizzard's expansions after that, and they just kind of said, no, screw you, like, screw fundamentals, balancing. We're going to just raise everything. And so we're in the new world. And the thing is, if you're going to be in the new world, you should stay in the new world. Because once you start mixing the old sets, like if you bring GVG back, that's not going to make an impact. Or at least it's not going to make a fun impact. It may be interesting for a bit, maybe for like an event, right? Like those wild events. But we're just kind of in a different world right now. And I think part of it is probably Blizzard being lazy. Part of it is probably their fear of the Demon Hunter thing, which they shouldn't be that scared of. But part of it is also probably a recognition that, like, internally, they're doing standard stuff. So why not have Arena be standard too? So I'm not upset about that much.
Yeah, it's just a little bit stale, and I think a lot of people are frustrated by whatever card they're frustrated by, whether it be Twin Tyrant or whatever, and they want to see something fresh, because Arena players, you want to see that GVG you come back. You want to see that, like, KFT. I don't know. Whatever weird set that you're a huge fan of. I want to see Ungoro come back, but that's me. Anyways, that's what it is. We're just probably going to be in standard for the foreseeable future. I'm looking forward to seeing more of the reveals, and next week we'll talk a little bit more about maybe some hidden themes potentially that they reveal, just like how Old Gods was a lot of taunts, right? We had some taunts. That wasn't a theme, but that was a theme for the arena. Let's talk about BGs a little bit, because BGs
before we move to BGs, I want to finish off one more thing about what's happening with the arena in I can't even say the word. It's so not a word. Scholomance Academy, or
Scholomance.
Scholomance Academy.
At the very beginning.
I'm just gonna call it the Academy. So what's coming out in the Academy is that they're just adding the Academy, and presumably with the offering rate bonus on top of the existing offering rate structure. And remember, this is a supersized expansion, just like the last expansion was a supersized expansion. So they're going to add a whole crap ton of cards, like more than 150 cards, into the existing pile, which means everything's going to get diluted. And that's a good thing, in my opinion. Because I've been basically asking them for a whole year now to let more sets be in their wild rotations, so that we don't see the same decks every single time. Like, part of what's fun with the arena is that you're forced to use whatever cards. You can't just build the deck you want, right? But now, if you play like Warrior, you're going to get your Ganaris. You're pretty reasonably sure you're going to get these cards, and you just build a deck around that. Like, sure, no deck is exactly like another deck, but your themes are kind of set. So especially when they're getting rid of, when they got rid of things like buckets, where you can kind of put your thumb on the scale and create like an aggro deck or a control deck without losing too much power. Now you need kind of the randomness to kick in. So having more randomness when it comes to your draft is a good thing, especially when it's not a power level randomness. It's just a diversity randomness. So I'm excited that they're not removing any sets and just adding this in. And if they continue with this, it means the next set will add even more. And that's when they get in trouble. Like back when we were in standard rotations, like that last set kind of adds too much into the pool, because every time you add a set into the pool, your offering rate bonus also has to be high enough so you see enough of the new cards. So that also gets higher, and then you just it gets a little messy at that point. I think it's still controllable, but definitely this mid-year point is a good sweet spot that I think everybody will appreciate. Even the people who like the size of the offering pool right now, I think they'll be okay with what's happening. And for people like me, well, honestly, I would like even more cards in the pool. Like when it was completely wild, I was like, that's okay. Like I didn't really mind that. This is a very welcome change, and you'll feel it. Like you'll definitely feel it. You will get much fewer duplicates. There will be very few cards that you can like even think, oh, I'm gonna see this like half the time I pick, Mage or something. There will not be any cards fitting that description outside of the most recent set. And even then, you're not going to see multiples too often.
Yep. Okay, great. Now we're moving on to BGs. BGs earlier this week got a huge update that shakes up the meta. Let's just go through a little bit in terms of what changed, what heroes were added, and then we can talk about the effects using some stats from HS Replay. So, patch 17.6.
And my personal experience, having played a crap ton of Battlegrounds since the patch. I was telling you this before the stream. I've hit 10.9k 5 times already without hitting 11k rating. And it's just annoying me. I've done this on stream, I've done it off stream. It's just very annoying. But I can also give some on the ground insights on what's happening with the meta. But yeah, let's talk about the changes first.
All right, so what changed? Well, we got some new heroes. 3 new heroes were introduced, or in some cases reintroduced, with some changes. First, we have Tess Greymane. Her hero power costs 1. And it's reusable. It is what it does is it refreshes the tavern with minions from your last opponent's warband. So you click it, it refreshes the tavern, and it'll pop up with what you just faced.
Now, there's randomly
no absolute guarantee that you will get exactly what you want, because let's say they had a Bran and 6 other things. Well, unless you have 7 slots, which you don't, you're never guaranteed the Bran. So, it's good for trying to pick at those things that you want, but I'll let you guys know right now, Tess, so I'm using stats from the top 1%. So this is 11k players, okay? Tess right now is in the bottom tier. She still has enough data to be ranked, but she is one of the worst heroes for 11k players.
I've played with her twice. She's terrible, and I'll tell you from an on-the-ground experience why she's terrible. She's terrible because her ability doesn't kick in until the late game, because you're basically just going for tempo more or less until then, and you're always 1 tavern tier behind, or like half a tavern tier behind if you use this ability as a normal refresh. So usually you don't want to use this hero power for your first like 8-9 turns. Like only after everyone's kind of on tier 4 and above, and so they have tier 4 minions and they no longer have tier 2 minions or below, will you start wanting to use that hero power. And at that point, enough of your opponents have specialized already that what they have is totally worthless to you. So it's not good or even that useful, except in very specific circumstances before like turn 9, and then after turn 9 is not useful at all against half your opponents. So it's a late game hero power, and we know how good late game hero powers are. They suck. And in the late game, it's not usable half the time. Now, you can high roll this hero power like crazy, right? If you happen to face the Eudora, right, like who popped off, and then you take all of her good stuff. Um, but it's very inconsistent, and it overall just doesn't do a lot. It's not a negative, right? Like some hero powers end up being negatives or totally worthless. This will always be like a little helpful, but you're in your mind, the high roll situations you're thinking of does not happen all that frequently.
Yep. And of course, this is also stats taken at starting from 11K. These are the top players, and they are giving you no breathing room.
Mm-hmm.
So any sort of hero power that, like you said, is anti-tempo and requires you to kind of face the right guy at the right time, that's never a good thing. You always want those stats instead. Okay, let's talk about the next hero.
Oh, sorry. When I said turn 9 before, I meant 9 mana. My bad. No,
yeah.
You're going to use this before turn 9. You're going to use that like turn 7.
Yeah. King Mukla has returned, but this time with a different hero power. King Mukla has a 1 mana hero power called Bananarama. I like the name of that. You get 2 bananas. Now, bananas are 0 mana +1/+1 spells cards that go into your hand immediately. So for one mana, you get 2 bananas. And at the end of your turn, give everyone else 1. So at the end of your turn, everyone else just magically has a banana appear in their hands. And
if you don't scout the way I don't, sometimes
yeah,
like you just end up with a banana and you're like, what the hell happened? You're like, oh, there's got to be a Mukla in the lobby.
I'm sure this happens quite often. Mukla is one of the worst heroes in the game. If you just think about it, you are getting an immediate +2/+2 for 1 mana, but everyone is getting a free +1/+1.
So you're effectively getting +1/+1 and then a earlier +1/+1, which is probably worth like, I don't know, plus 0.75 plus 0.75 or something like that. Maybe plus 1.5 plus 1.5, like at most compared to the other people. And you compare that to like what Edwin does, right? And it just pales in comparison. So what Mukla actually is it's like half of a Deathwing, half of an Edwin. And it hits a very not sweet spot between the two. Because
how is it a Deathwing?
Well, it's increasing the aggression of the lobby, and it's increasing the swing in the entire lobby.
Okay. All right, in that way, sure. Yeah.
So
you are
like the people with like rats, the people with like a divine shield minion or like whatever, right? Like they will benefit, and the people without it will be hurt. And so the lobby kind of resolves itself faster. And remember, everybody gets the banana, so it does this even more than Deathwing, because the whole lobby's facing each other under these conditions. So if you see a Mukla in your lobby, people are going to get knocked out faster. And if you see a Mukla in your lobby, like a strategy that I've been using to decent effect is if there is a Mukla in the lobby, one, mechs become very good, right? Because a lot of mechs scale, and you can get your Deflecto starting on tier 3, which is good. Like rats are also good, but rats are always good in my opinion, so that doesn't really change my strategy there. But I'm much more likely, if I hit a mech, to just like drop all other plans and just stay with mechs. In a normal lobby, if you stay with mechs, you're kind of limiting your upside, but you also like limit your downside greatly. In a Mukla lobby, like assuming you're not Mukla, in a Mukla lobby, your mechs are going to get you top 4. It's like guaranteed. It will be extremely unlucky for that not to happen, assuming that you happen to hit a Deflecto, right, on tier 3 so that you can go mechs. I don't mean like hard roll for mechs, but if you like find a Deflecto, just like stay there. Like you start having to think holistically about the lobby, right? And then Mukla really puts an interesting spin on it. That being said, I think no one's going to pick Mukla after this week because he's terrible, and people will realize that.
Yep. All right. So on to the final hero that was added. We got Dino, Tamer, Bran. If you guys remember, the first time Bran came around, this was months and months and months ago. He was the best hero in the game. Now he's back with a new hero power that is not as good. This one is 1 mana, refresh Bob's Tavern with Battlecry minions. Dino Tamer Bran right now is once again at the very bottom, just like the other heroes that we mentioned. It's actually 1 above Tess and 2 above King Mukla. So congrats, Bran. You are the best out of the 3, but they are all in the bottom tier of HS replay. According to 11K players.
Okay, so I have a totally different opinion on Bran than the other two, because the other two I think really do kind of suck. But I think Bran is actually okay. I'm not going to say he's good, but he's okay and people are playing him. And that's because, it's really only because of one thing, which is that the meta right now is so Murloc focused. Like, we are in the Murloc meta right now. And what do the first 2 Murlocs have in common? 2 of the 3 Murlocs? They're both Battlecry minions. What does tier 3 give you? It gives you 2 Battlecry Murlocs that do a lot of good things. What does tier 5 give you? It gives you 2 more Murlocs that do freaking amazing things. And on top of that, on tier 5 with Murlocs, you want Bran anyway, which then synergizes with just kind of needing Battlecries to do stuff. So what you should do, I think, as Bran, assuming there are Murlocs, is you stay on tier 1 for an extra turn if you don't get your Murlocs, and you set up. And then you basically play him like you would like Ratham. If you can't get like a really good start, you can tier up on 2, but if you tier up on 2, you need to do a transition on 3 into Murlocs by just spamming that hero power. Like, stay on 3 an extra turn. So you're either going to stay on 1 a couple of extra turns and then speed past 2 into 3, or you're going to stay on 3 an extra turn. But either way, you want to pretend, if you're playing Bran, that you're actually playing Flurgle. Because Murlocs are so good, and your hero power funnels you so much into this direction. It would really be a shame. Like, you would have to like whiff pretty hard to not do that. So I don't know if you should hard force it, but in my few games with Bran, I did very well, and I hit my Murlocs both times. So you're going to be a little behind the lobby in terms of where your progression is, usually like a turn behind, at most 2 turns behind, but you want to do the normal thing where you don't go to 4 until you have you can triple into the 5. And then once you're on 4, your immediate next turn should be getting to 5 if you don't hit the Bran. If you hit the Bran, you have that the Battlecry key, right? So it'll be even easier to find your buffs for 1 turn to stabilize before you go to 5. And then you can hit your key for even better buffs, right? So that's the way you play Bran. And I think if people are like not exploring Bran and are just like trying to like, get high scores with Bran, like place high, doing that is a pretty good strategy from what I've like both seen other people do and what I've done myself. So I think that stat is going to go up because people will figure it out.
I can see Bran having a lot of potential. Mukla is one of those in which you just look at it and you're like, this guy's got no potential, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is really... it's like, what would make Mukla better? If there was we were in a meta in which one unit getting buffed it is just so good. Like, you just really need to buff this one unit. But then Edwin would just always be better, essentially. So you just look at King Mukla and you're like, oh, God, you can never be good. Tess has a little bit more potential as well. It's like in a meta in which, let's say we were back in the parrot meta, right? By the way, parrots and Goldrins are dead because Goldrins have been moved to tier 6. Sorry, Goldrin. You should not have been the victim. It's all parrots' fault. We've talked about this before. But if we're in a meta in which there is one dominant and pretty easily obtained, as in like it's not scaling, you just have to buy stuff, right? You have to find the thing. Then Tess suddenly becomes crazy because of its ability to, just find things really easily. But as of right now, that's not it. Like you said, we have a lot of scaling comps. It's not just like it's not plug and play. So if you are looking for or trying to add to your scaling comp, Test can still help you out, but it's not going to be, the payoff isn't as good as, oh, this is just a Goldrinn Macaw meta, and Test, sure, like everyone is trying to get it anyways, and you just guarantee yourself that you're going to get it and you're going to build a better comp. So I agree. Yeah, I think Brand has definitely some potential. And let's also just remember, it hasn't even been a week yet. So, people are trying to figure it out. But we could certainly see heroes, especially Bran, go up. But yes, right now, the stats are not favorable towards any of these heroes.
And again, I don't think Bran is going to be a top hero or anything, but he's definitely playable. Like, unlike the other two. Like, Tessa's problem is... I see what you're saying, that Tess will be better in another meta, but what you're actually saying is Tess will be better and more playable in a problematic meta. Like, Tess will, as she stands, will never be even average in any good balance meta. What you need to do is either have one unit that's just absurdly more powerful than anything else, and we have cannons right now, and that's not even powerful enough, and it's an early unit too. So that's a problem. But if we were, let's say, to go back to the demon meta, the Murloc meta right now is already approximating that, but having more Murlocs doesn't do you that much good. It'll help you triple up, but it's not as good as something such as if you were in a demon meta and then you can get your demons earlier, because demons are time sensitive. Your demons are better the earlier you get them, and they're usually low, the ones that you want. So you can, if you face a demon comp, right, and you're a demon comp, you just kind of win. So with Tess, what you want to do right now, because Murlocs are the most common comp, is you want to face a Murloc comp with Murlocs, and then you get a little bit more powerful, because having stacking low-level Murlocs is not the most powerful thing, and that's assuming you end up facing it. So it's just, Tess is a weirdly designed hero. I don't know where they're really going with it. I think they may just be testing out the concept.
Yeah. And two heroes were updated. One to make it better, and one to utterly destroy the hero. Arana Starseeker has been updated such that before, where it was after you refresh 7 times, Bob always presents you with 7 minions. Now it's only 5 times. After you refresh 5 times, Bob will always present to you 7 minions in the tavern, so you're able to take advantage of it a little bit earlier. Now, has that helped Arana a lot? No. Arana's stats are still really bad according to HS Replay. It's a welcome change.
In the top 5% of players, Arana's the lowest.
Yeah, and this might just be one of those things where, if you remember Pyramid, at first it was +2 health, and they're like, no, it still sucks. +3 health, and they're like, all right, fine, +4 health. And now Pyramid is fine. Pyramid has gone from, multiple metas as being either a really good hero or just a pretty good hero. So this might be one of those things where they're like, okay, 5. Okay, 4. And
it's going to end up at 3.
I know, it's like, 3 maybe.
If you put it at 3 right now, it'll be one of the best heroes. But I think there's going to be enough power creep by the time they get around to changing it to 3, after the 4 zone, that it'll get there.
Yeah, because if you change it to 3, it's a better Nozdormu, right? It's a worse Nozdormu and then a better Nozdormu, essentially. But anyways, look, a welcome change, because Arana was absolutely terrible. Now, on to the nerf that I think a lot of people were asking for. Captain Hook Tusk was nerfed. The old hero power was remove a friendly minion, discover one from a tavern tier lower, and now instead of discovering, you just get a random one. Mm-hmm. And this has hit Hook Tusk extraordinarily hard. And Hook Tusk went from being at the very top of the meta to being a slightly above the bottom tier in the meta.
It's where Elise is right now. You don't want to pick Elise right now, but if you're forced to, you're not totally dead in the water, It's not bottom tier.
Yeah, I mean, right now it is neck and neck with Toki and Flurgle.
Hmm.
And
And remember, that's because people are messing up Flurgle all the time. Flurgle is way better than that. I'll talk about Flurgle afterwards.
Look, you don't got to sell me on Flurgle, okay? We all know about this. But yeah, so Hook Tusk has been nerfed. Surprisingly, or not that surprising, I guess, Eudora has stayed, and now Eudora is at the very top of the meta. It used to be Hook Tusk
Hmm.
and Eudora, just two members of the same club, the OP club, and now Hook Tusk has been kicked out. The minions in Battlegrounds have also been slightly shifted.
Before
Like
we
I
get to the
said,
minions thing, I want to talk one thing about
no,
Eudora
I
for a
just want to.
second.
I just want to list it. Like, I just want to list it because not that much needs to be said.
What? There's
Goldrun
so
was
much
moved.
to be said about the
No, no,
minions.
no, no, no. I mean, like, we don't have to talk about it right now.
Okay.
We introduced this because whatever we talk about, we need to get the entire
Okay.
picture. Goldrun has been moved from tier 5 to tier 6, no stat changes otherwise, and a new minion has been introduced called the Amalgadon, which is a tier 6 minion, and it has all tribes. So it's tier 6, and it is a 6/6 battle cry for each different minion type you have, adapt randomly. So it'll just, you plop onto the board and it'll just keep on adapting for how many minion types you have until you get this nice, divine shield, poison, beefy minion. Maybe,
Probably not.
probably not.
Usually, it's not terribly great unless you have a.
Yeah.
But you roll for it, right? It's only 2 mana if you're going to buy it and sell it. So and it's going to be decent size.
Well, also, if you have one Amalgadon, your second Amalgadon triggers off your first
Yeah.
Amalgadon.
And if you triple it, they keep all their old stuff and then they get more of it. So you're definitely going to get Divine Shield and Poison.
Yep.
Yeah. So those are the changes. I'll get to the mini thing in a second, but Eudora right now, I want to point out that it's not just that she's tier 1 by herself. She's 0.4 positions above Darrow, who's number 2. 0.4 positions in BG is absurd. There's like 2 tiers. That's not even like 1 tier. Like, if you compare Eudora to number 3, which is Mage, which is 4.05, like, that's 0.6. Like, we're talking, like, and just playing as Eudora, obviously I pick Eudora every time. I average above second place with Eudora since Hook Tusk got kicked out. It's just...
Yeah, I have seen your Eudora plays, and it is something. Okay?
It's the best, right? You just get the things that you need, and then you win. But I have a sample size of Eudora of maybe 10, maybe 12 post patch. I've been lucky enough to hit her a decent amount of time, and it's keeping me afloat in this MMR battle here. It's so easy, so brainless. I don't know if people are playing her wrong or something, but there's no way she's actually only 3.5 position on average. Like, she's better than that is my point. And she's not hard to play, so I'm not doing anything crazy or anything. So we are talking ridiculous domination. Not just this is the best hero. We're talking this is the best hero by more than a tier compared to the other heroes. So This is tier S, and then there's no one on tier A, and then Daryl and Maiev and Caltheus start with tier B.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So that's BG's right now, and one of the biggest changes is pirates are not guaranteed anymore. You can now have games in which pirates are actually not in. It's crazy. We just sort of, at least I did in the old patch. It's like, oh yeah, pirates are just part of the permanent game. But this was always their intention. They wanted the shiny new toys to always be played with, and now it's just like, okay, now you get to play with it sometimes. I think it's a very welcome change because pirates, as we've talked about before, are very powerful in the mid game. They can deal a ton of damage. They snowball within a battle. So, for example, you go second and the pirates go first. There's a very real possibility you're getting chunked for 15, 20 damage way before you should, quote unquote, get chunked for that much damage. So that's where BG's is right now. I have not played a lot. You have played a ton, and you seem to be enjoying it.
There's a lot of variety right now. I think there's Murlocs are dominating. It's clearly the go-to build. You should try to build Murlocs if you can. And the reasons Murlocs are dominating is it's not just because they nerfed Beast, obviously, right? I'll talk about Beast afterwards. But the reason Murlocs are dominating is because Goldrinn moved out of 5, which means there are fewer things in 5, which means it is much easier. Like, it doesn't feel like it's that big of a deal to get rid of one thing in 5, but it really makes a big difference because you roll a lot, and then you hit a lot, and then you discover. Like, you're hitting so many chances at 5 when you're in the Murloc build. So right now, for Murlocs, it's a lot more consistent on tier 5 to hit the things you're trying to hit for. And it's less consistent to hit the Megasaur on 6 because they added a turn 6 minion and Goldrinn moved up to 6. But Murlocs, the problem with Murlocs was never really getting the Megasaur. It was like not dying immediately when you get to 5 and need to hit the Bran and the Begurgle and whatever. And that consistency has really helped a lot. So you'll see a lot of people in the lobbies going Murlocs right now. That being said, just because the Murlocs are still the dominant strategy, I mean, it was the dominant strategy even before these changes, and it still is. They just took Beast kind of out of contention for the top. It's still not the only strategy. Dragons are still super powerful, like endgame super powerful, and Beasts, although they've been knocked down a peg, they're still more than viable. Like, people were like, oh, you nerf Goldrinn, Beasts are going to die. I'm like, well, Mama Bear was always a thing. That whole build line is still functional. And you think about the things where you discover something on tier 6 and then you build your whole comp around it. Mama Bear is still a top pick. Like, if you don't get your Caligos. And if you get your Megasaur, who cares, right? If you don't have your Murlocs, you can't do anything with the Megasaur. You would still take a Mama Bear and build off of that. Like, assuming you don't have a Bran. But if you have a Bran, you probably already have gathered some Murlocs. And, Murlocs kind of flow in a different way, is my point. And Goldrinn's on tier 6 is still something you would pick. So the way you do Beast now is kind of like Mama Bear Beast, where you get to 6, you discover your Mama Bear, or if you fail to discover the Mama Bear, your Goldrinn will still keep your Beast comp alive because Goldrinns are so good. And if you have a Goldrinn, you start doing Macaw, Goldrinn, Baron. You're already on tier 5 to make the Discover. You can try to look for your Baron. You switch your comp up. If you get a Mama Bear, you can forget about the Goldrinn. You don't necessarily need the bird. You can just stack other stuff. And you also have good backups on tier 6, like Gascoiler, which is still a beast and still keeps your comp kind of alive. And you can level to, like, hard level to 6 or trip up again in order to improve your comp. Now, it's a lot more hassle than it used to be. But beasts were super ridiculously good before, and now they're just not top tier anymore. That being said, like, Murlocs are top tier, Dragons are top tier. Neither of them do anything really until the end game. So beasts are in the tier right below that. Like, they still are. Well, maybe not the tier right below that. You may have like mechs. I've been really liking mechs because mechs provide a good amount of stability. I don't know if the meta shifted. Like, I can't tell you why mechs are better now, but I feel like I survive better with mechs in the like kind of unstable part of the game. I think it may just be because you've reduced the amount of ridiculous people in your lobby. The hook tusk ridiculous is no longer there. Like, Eudora is super good. She doesn't destroy you in the mid game. It's more like she falls a little bit behind, she gets a little bit ahead in the mid game, then she falls a little bit behind again, and then she dominates the end game because of that second dig, like the second successful dig. So now your mid game is a lot more stable than it used to be, even though it's still swingier than the meta before this. And in a more stable meta, mechs can just like get you to that top 4 pretty easily if you come upon mechs. So now, if I hit my Deflecto bots, or if I hit a bunch of other mech units, even if I don't have a Deflecto bot, I may just stay like on 4 and go the mech route and kind of like do what you used to do with mechs, which is say, I'm not going to win the lobby, but I'm going to get like top 3, top 4, or whatever. So the diversity in this has actually gone up, I think, significantly, even though Murlocs are kind of consolidating the most easy to build and top position for itself. Big demons, still pretty good. Shooty demons, more viable now than before. Again, because of the meta shifts. Shooty demons are a build again. What other builds are there? I haven't tried Menagerie. Or maybe I tried it once or twice and it didn't work. HS Replay does not think much of them, but I also don't really trust how HS Replay categorizes Menagerie. I think HS Replay just viewed failed comps as Menagerie.
Yeah, I think that's the safety net for something that they don't recognize that well. Look, Menagerie is certainly better now because Amalgadon is the unit that they want to use to buff Menagerie. Because before, what were you trying to get in terms of a 6-drop for Menagerie? Well, you could get Foe Reaper to start buffing it, but mechs were always the awkward ones in Menagerie.
Yeah.
They were always the weird one that you had to buy specific buffs for.
Yeah.
You could get Imp Mama, but once again, she's also the weird one, right? Like in terms of the buffs. And so what they did was they're like, okay, if you want to play Brand Menagerie, here is just the perfect unit for you. It's an immediate boost that you want. And even if you're not playing Brand Menagerie, if you're just playing whatever Menagerie, like you always want this unit. There is never a point in which you don't want this unit. And that's what you want for comps. It's like for dragon comps, or if you want to start a dragon comp, do you want a Calgos? Yes, I always want a Calgos. There's never a point in which I don't want a Calgos. For Menagerie, you never had that unit until now.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at endgame, you just need one of those minions. Like, okay, do I always want this minion? Does it make me more powerful right now and in the future? Yes. So props to Blizzard, because we've talked about this before on how Menagerie builds are pretty interesting, and they should reward this. Rewarding people for just going one tribe, and it's like, oh, like only pirates, only dragons, only this, only that. It gets kind of, it gets stale. Like what you want to do is encourage people to either go Menagerie or maybe have units that encourage like 2 tribes, right? Or just hybrid things. Stuff like Gold Grubber, for example, it encourages, like a little bit more kind of like mixing. Although I want to see something that's not just like, oh, gold minions. But yeah, you want to see minions that are more applicable to sort of other sort of tribes as well. This is a good step. I mean, this just means that Blizzard sees the problem with mono type kind of decks, right? Like mono decks, and they want you to mix it up a little bit. So Amalgadon is something that I am personally very, very happy about philosophically. Now, if it gets really toxic, like if we ever get to a meta in which Amalgadon is really, really toxic, which could happen, I could see that. I don't think it's going to happen, but it could happen. Then we can cross that bridge when we get to there. But the idea is something that I really, really love. So shout out to Blizzard for introducing something like this.
Yeah, I think it's very well balanced. Like you see it in all sorts of comps as placeholders, as just tempo things, and then Menagerie gets a big boost out of it. So it's a well designed minion, and you can see Blizzard moving away from the single type stuff, not just with Amalgadon, but like look at the last 2 sets they designed. Like Pirates kind of hold together, but you're never too upset to transition out of Pirates. It's one of the most, like, you have a powerful early mid game, and by late mid game, if you want to transition to Murlocs or Dragons or whatever, you can do it. Like, if you have a Pirate comp and then you get a Caligos, you're not staying with your Pirate comp, like if you discover a Caligos. You're swapping into a Dragon comp. And then Dragons, obviously, is the other example where nothing happens with it until tier 6. Possibly tier 5, but really tier 6. So you can, if you whiff and you don't have another easy 6-drop or to come out of it, you may very well transition as well. Compare that to, say, like mechs, or like demons, which you never transition into them. They're kind of like your early, like, oh, I'm going to do this kind of sets. And in that sense, Beast was kind of problematic in that it bridged too easily from their early mid game to their late mid game to their end comp. and it used to be capped at how good they could be. The bird, the parrot, blew that out of the water, and now it got like super good for the possibility of a final comp. And so they needed to do something about that. And rather than get rid of bird, they decided to break the middle so that you now also, if you're going beast in the early game, and like rat is my favorite unit in the entire BGs. So I have rats a lot, very frequently, and I need to transition out of them a lot now. Whereas before, I would kind of like naturally go to beasts. So they're really encouraging this. Your comp solidifies at different points of the game depending on where you go, and you can transition, whereas it was harder to before. Did I miss anything?
Okay.
Oh yeah, Murlocs was the only tribe I missed, and obviously you can transition out of Murlocs because they suck for most of the early game.
At the point in which you are not right, like they are, you're never super committed to Murlocs until they are of a pretty decent size.
Yeah.
So okay, BGs has been shaken up a little bit. Not really surprised. Like we know Blizzard is going to support BGs. They have supported BGs. They will continue to support BGs. Those 8-player lobbies that people data mined, that should, knock on wood, it should be right around the corner. And once that gets released, the floodgates are open. BGs just becomes the mode that I think right now is definitely the most hyped. If you look at Twitch, everyone's playing BGs, and it'll just open it up completely. It'll get me back in 110%. Although right now it's really just work that's holding me back. I am very curious about BGs. But glad to see them make some changes. We'll see how the meta exactly shakes out, because we're talking about, oh, this hero sucks. These heroes are good. This comp is bad. This comp is good. It will change, especially in the highest tiers, because people will figure out some sort of tech, some sort of timing, some sort of play style to get a decent advantage over everyone. So
for right now, if you want to be ahead of the curve, I feel like people are really shitting on beasts way harder than they should be. Like, don't be afraid to go beasts if you get one of the key 6 drops, like out of a discover. Like, don't do it otherwise. This is not like a target, but don't like just be like, oh, I guess beasts suck now. I see a mama bear, but I'm not going to take it, even though I have like, other stuff or whatever. No, take the mama bear, go beasts. You're going to be fine. It's going to be better than you totally whiffing on a tier 6 discover, like it's still a viable build. And the other one is that, yes, the hype is real. Murlocs are great. I don't know about forcing it unless you have certain heroes, but definitely if you can go Murlocs, go Murlocs. They're pretty strong in the mid game. They're pretty easy to get in the mid games now, and the end game has always been incredibly strong. And with that, Flurgle is good again. I played him twice. I did very well with him. Obviously, I forced Murlocs. It's Flurgle. And Murlocs are just that strong. The consistency on tier 5 really helps Flurgle a lot. And the kind of reduced damage in the mid game without Hook Tusk compared to the previous meta. Because Hook Tusk
that's really the thing. Yeah. It's like, okay, if you are in a meta in which it's pretty fast, and not just fast, because there's fast and there's getting your face pounded into the ground in the early mid game fast, which was what we had. And once they do things to reduce the damage that you take, because Flurgle always plays on a razor's edge, like you have to just make sure you get to tier 5. You get one good turn on tier 5, you're feeling really good about going first. So a lot of the changes that they did, Hook Tusk, obviously, but also Pirates not always being in the game anymore. Nerfing of beasts such that people are not like going for macaws, and because people like, if you're in a macaw beast meta, what people will do, they'll take the macaws and they'll get the death rattles as well, and they can scam you with a lot of damage in the early mid game / mid game, and that's not what you want. Like, if you get beaten, that's fine. You just don't want to take, you just don't want the outlier where you're taking a lot more damage than you should be for a quote typical loss on whatever turn it is. So yeah, I think I've heard from multiple people, and I don't know, like people actually just message me as like, "Hey, Florgo is good." I'm like, I'm not the Florgo guy. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Uh, thank you for sharing the Florgo news. But it's not like I own Florgo or anything. But I am very happy with the fact that Florgo is doing well because it's a very fun hero and it's a very high skill cap hero. And we should have metas that sort of encourage high skill cap players, right? Like Hook Tusk.
Oh god, no! We should always have Eudora metas.
Always Hook Tusk
Eudora is so nice. Oh my god, I just shut my brain off and I get in first place or second place. Like if I whiff, I get second place. If I hit it, I get first place, or like at least a 50% shot at it. So nice. Okay, so enough about Battlegrounds. Let's move on to Arena, which really, if you looked at their announcements, you would think nothing happened. But something happened.
Something did happen. Macro adjusts are in.
They pushed the button.
They pushed the button because, as they stated before, it's much easier to push the button after you get rid of buckets. And easier means once in, I don't know, whenever someone accidentally falls on the button. And once again, I refuse to say micro adjust because if you remember Warriors being number 1, well, congrats, they're number 9 now. And maybe, perhaps, even the worst class period. Because right now, Demon Hunters are still the worst at 45%. But if you remember how bad they were before, they were like 38%, right? They were like terrible, terrible, terrible. They've shot up to 45%. And there's still going to be some lag time before we see exactly how good Demon Hunter is and exactly how bad Warriors are. So the fact that Demon Hunter has already climbed this much and Warriors have already dropped this much, I think it's very fair to say that, Warrior could just be the worst class by a country mile. I haven't said that.
I don't know if it's going to drop that much. I don't know if it's going to say that. There's a 3% difference, and we're already 3 days in.
Yeah. I'm just saying this because this is just, like you go in and you think you know something, right, with the arena. You even check the patches just to hopefully see that one sentence at the very end. The appearance rate of cards has been adjusted to try to get the classes as close to 50% as possible. That thing that they always copy and paste whenever they want to share about adjustments. No, they didn't share it this time. We have no information, and these are huge adjustments.
We're very happy, though.
Yeah.
Imprison Gennard, by the way, for those who are wondering, was seen in 13% of decks, is now seen in less than 5%.
Yeah. They looked at basically what made Warriors powerful, and they're like, no. Stop. No.
Yeah.
You don't get this anymore. And for a classic Warrior, it really is extraordinarily polarized. Like, Warriors rely on the quality of their cards. There's no crutch like a hero power, right? They're not like a mage in which a bigger percentage of their goodness comes from the hero power. No. With Warrior, it's just about how good their class cards are and how often you get their class cards. So when you hit Warriors hard, they get hit really, really hard out of all of the classes.
Yeah, and lest you think Warriors are like unplayable or anything, they're still winning 48%. Like, the meta's just pretty balanced right now, according to HS Replay. But it hasn't shaken up yet. Like, it's not settled. We expect things to keep moving. And remember, this is being recorded on a Friday, or broadcast live on a Friday. Merv says something on Sunday, so we're doing this early. For those on the podcast who may be listening to this on Monday, as usual. So we don't know where this is going to settle, but Warriors have definitely lost a lot of their weapons. And the new number 1 is Rogue at 53.7%. Again, that's just how the meta is. They probably up some of the Rogue cards. Rogues weren't even that bad before. But I think once they... okay, so here's what happened. They nerfed the top classes kind of like down the line. and then they didn't nerf Rogue, and so now Rogue is the new top class. And they didn't buff the bottom enough for it to overtake Rogue. And we know that the closer you get to equilibrium, like the closer you get to just everyone being a neutral class, the better Rogue is, because they have the best hero power. So these adjusts bring Rogue to the top. It's not like Rogues have like anything ridiculous these days. Like you're not going to be like, oh my god, there's 18 eviscerates. No, that didn't happen. But Rogues are significantly at the top. The second best class right now is still Paladin at 51.5%. And I think Paladin was the number 2 class in the last, before the adjust too. So Paladin's like actually hanging on in there. I would expect Paladin to fall more though, as time goes on. But the very last class is number 10, Demon Hunter, at 45%, which is 3% below Warrior's 48%. So they have a ways to catch up to Warrior. Although I agree with you, it'll probably keep rising as good players start playing Demon Hunters again. Because remember, no one was playing Demon Hunters before. Good players don't even know how to play Demon Hunters. I mean, they probably pretty much know how to play Demon Hunters, but they don't know how to play Demon Hunters the way they do all the other classes.
Yeah, that experience, like people are going to play it more, which means they're going to just get better with it, right? Like if you see the stats, what's the point of you, like as a good player being like, well, it's 38% win rate, but I'm pretty sure I am like, a 44% win rate player. No. That's pretty pointless. So as it gets better, people will pick it up more, learn the nuances and intricacies of that class, and then further push that win rate up higher.
Yeah.
So we're going to see Demon Hunters again. That's exciting.
It is.
It's like very exciting.
Because Demon Hunters have never been balanced. And I'm not sure they're balanced now, but this is definitely the closest it's gotten. Because they started off super powerful. Didn't matter what you did, you won. Then they were like blasted into oblivion. Then they were nerfed a bit, but were still super powerful. And then they were blasted to oblivion. And now they're kind of on their way back. So, I may roll up a Demon Hunter here or there and check it out. Get some Demon Hunter
worth
skills.
Checking out now. Yeah, we could not recommend Demon Hunter before.
Yeah,
but
because it was at 38% win rate.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more thing that's happened with the arena and these offering adjusts is if you're trying to imagine how the meta's going, craziness has dropped by about 10%. All the good cards are seen about 10% less. We're talking about Twin Tyrants, we're talking about just your normal standard good cards. I'm not even talking about like Imprison Gnar or whatever, just your neutral top quality cards. And again, this goes back to why Rogue is powerful now, even though they didn't do that much to Rogue. It's because all this power level stuff of the cards got reduced. So the hero power is worth more. And that's probably also why Warrior's so far down. Like, they probably nerfed the cards, and they're like, oh, that's good, but they didn't consider that they nerfed the overall card quality, and so your hero power comes back into play. Because it's hard to consider that kind of stuff, right? Like, you have to be, like, a couple steps ahead of the game, and Blizzard and their adjusts are not a couple of steps ahead of the game, usually. So, they're not hitting, like, the perfection level, but it's still pretty good. So, overall, the meta is just better. Like, if you hated the previous meta, you're not going to like this one because it's like 10% better, right? 10% better off of horrible is not that much better. But if you're like us and you thought the previous meta was like actually like decent, like not great, but decent, now it's moved into like definitely an above average, maybe even a good meta. We'll see, but it's certainly gotten less crazy. And that on top of the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza nerf. That went live at the same time. Dragon Queen Alexstrasza is seen a lot more than it should be because it gets discovered a lot or randomly generated. So nerfing the card doesn't just, and in fact, that's the best way to get Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. It's not putting it in your deck. It's kind of like just like lucking into it. I'm actually going to do a search right now and see how much less frequently Dragon Queen Alexstrasza is seen. Dragon Queen Alexstrasza dropped from like 4.2 to 3.4%. Just like index. So that's minus 25% seen index. Some of it's probably due to offering rate lowering. Some of it is probably due to the fact that it got nerfed, and so people don't put in their decks as much. Remember, we had Dragon Queen Alexstrasza like a 130, and now it's a 107. So we never thought about putting Dragon Queen Alexstrasza in your deck was like that great. Mostly because you need to reduce the amount of duplicates. And do you really want to give up that second Twin Tyrant? So yeah, anyway, so the meta's overall calmer. Neither of us have actually played in the arena yet, so we can't say anything definitively, but we're about to do the arena coup right after this, and it's going to be a hunter run. So that'll be interesting. And that'll be on the arena coup, and you can watch that to see how we tackle a fresh meta. But I will be playing arena all Sunday because this podcast and the coup is tonight, not Sunday, so I'll have a solo stream on Sunday, and I will be playing arena more or less the entire time. Maybe if it gets late and I get tired or whatever, I'll switch over to Battlegrounds for like the end. But I'm gonna definitely start off with arena and get a better sense of the meta. So yeah.
All right, sounds good. A lot of stuff this week, even more stuff to talk about next week. That's it for now. You want to take us home?
Yeah. Until next week, this is Adwikta.
This is Merp. See you guys.
Bye.